Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Clenson, and I am a University Professor of Learning Resources/librarian here at Robert Morris University, and I am also the Library Liaison for the IML Ph.D. program. And this is my presentation about the literature review, which is everyone's most favorite thing to do regarding their dissertation, let me tell you. So let's get started. I'm planning to give you a nice little overview of what the literature review is, and then some tips and techniques of how to make the literature review effective as efficiently as humanly possible. So moving on, the first thing I always like to touch on is what exactly is, quote, the literature, unquote. Most people, when they hear the phrase literature, they start naturally thinking of the great novels and short stories of the written word, everything from William Shakespeare to Ernest Hemingway. But in actuality, when we talk about the literature in the IML program, we're kind of referring to the Oxford English Dictionary's 3B definition, which is the body of works and writing that treat of a particular subject. So what we're looking at here are all of the different articles, books, reports, statistics, whatever, that talk about the topic that you're interested in writing about. The literature review itself has three purposes. The first is to ground yourself in the literature. You'll hear that phrase quite frequently, grounding yourself in the literature, and really what it means is to become knowledgeable about your topic. In order for you to develop a good study addressing a particular issue, you have to become an expert on that issue. And the way that you become an expert on that issue is to read the works that have done before. So if you think about yourself standing on the shoulders of giants to achieve new knowledge, that's exactly what the literature review is providing you. Additionally, however, you write the literature review as part of your dissertation to also provide the reader with a background or a context needed to understand your study's story. You can't just start with your methodology and your survey and then your results without giving the reader some sort of understanding about where this information is coming from. You have to kind of showcase about the work that people have done before and then how your work is adding on to their work. It's either addressing some new issue or it's continuing work that was done before. But what I think of most importantly in terms of the purpose of the literature review is number 3. It can also provide a study significance and justification. So often when you are writing your dissertation, you should be thinking in terms of defense. Someone at some point is going to ask you, what's the point of this dissertation? Why is it important? And you should be able to give them a nice, succinct answer to why your dissertation, why your study is important. And the literature review can help provide that significance and justification by saying, look, here are all the work that people have done before regarding this issue. Obviously, it's very important. This work has a lot of impact on people's lives, and my study is going to contribute to this past work by adding this new knowledge that can help people in the future. So when do you conduct your literature search? The answer is always now. You want to do it at the beginning of the study because it's of course going to help you form the research questions and hypotheses, and it will also impact methodology. One of the big things about the literature review that's very important is to make sure that no one has done your exact study before. You don't want to replicate a study by accident. It's okay to replicate it if you know you're replicating it, but if you replicate it by accident thinking that you're the first original person to come up with this, you're going to be shot down because the dissertation is supposed to be uncovering new original knowledge. So you want to make sure, first of all, that no one has done this before. And if you do happen across a study that's similar to what you want to do, this is where the literature review can help you refine your methodology. Maybe you're interested in researching topic A, and so far, everyone who's researched topic A has used quantitative research methodologies. Maybe you make your dissertation different by using a qualitative research methodology. Maybe somebody only, say, surveyed people living in India. Maybe you want to survey people living in California. There's lots of different ways to make your study unique and different, but you have to do the literature review work first to make sure that you're not replicating something that you've done before. Also, it's helpful with research questions and hypotheses, because if you know you're interested in a topic, but you're not sure exactly what research question you want to address, often in other people's dissertations and their scholarly articles, at the end, they'll have a section that says, future questions or unanswered questions or topics for future study. And they'll say, you know what, maybe my study addressed this aspect of this question, but it didn't look at this aspect. That is a very good place to jump off and say, hey, maybe I can find a study that addresses this aspect that was kind of left behind from this previous study. Additionally, you want to do the literature review kind of throughout the study, because while you are writing your dissertation, the publishing world is not stopping. So say you write your literature review draft in April. There might be a really important article that's published in May, and if you don't keep up on your literature review, you might miss that. So you want to keep doing it throughout your study to make sure that when you defend your dissertation, on the date that you defend it, everything is up to date until that particular point. Now, finding the relevant literature, this is where librarians come in handy. So you can always contact me or contact the RMU Library Help Desk to help you with locating information. But there's 4 different places and ways to locate data that I would recommend. And the first one is, of course, scholarly text. So I'm sure you guys have already been engaged with using journal articles, books, and dissertations. The second are the RMU library collections and subscription databases, and often this is how you find the #1 scholarly text, by using EBSCO's Discovery Service, by using ProQuest, or even using Google Scholar to connect to our content subscription databases. Number 3, though, I have starred, because I think this is a very efficient way to find a lot of good data. If you look at the bibliographies and works cited of articles and dissertations that you're finding on your topic, these are going to be the lists of works the authors used when doing their particular study for their literature review. There's no reason that you can't use these too. In fact, the reason that people craft bibliographies and works cited is that if a reader wants to go back and see the work that this person used upon which to base their study, they can do so. So they provide you all the information you need: the author, title, issue, volume, date, etc., etc. So looking at bibliographies and works cited is a really fast and easy way to collect a lot of possibilities of pieces of information for your literature review and to really ground you in the topic. Now, when you find a particular citation, what I would recommend is just throwing the title and the author in the Discovery Service or ProQuest or Google Scholar and see if you can come up with the actual full text of the document. If you can't, give us a call here at the library and we will work our magic. And number 4 is interlibrary loan. Every library does not have every book. And while we might have a fabulous library with a great collection, there's going to be a book or an article or a dissertation that we just simply don't have at hand. However, libraries love to share. So if you want a book and we don't have it, maybe the University of Pennsylvania Library has it, maybe the library at Rutgers has it, maybe the library at West Virginia University has it. We can get that library to either send us the book or send us a PDF of the article for you, and that is called interlibrary loan. There's a special tab on my LibGuide for the IML program that deals with interlibrary loan, and it comes in very, very handy. Currently, there's no charge whatsoever for the student. However, we do ask that you don't interlibrary loan, make, say, 50 requests in one day. We ask that you limit to 5 a day in order to make sure that the people on the library end who are facilitating interlibrary loan don't end up having this giant backlog of requests. And this is the question that I always get. How do I know when my literature search is complete? You kind of don't, but there's a couple indications that can tell you that maybe you can be satisfied with what you find already. So in my The way I describe it is I say, you know, the literature search is considered, quote, exhausted, unquote, when you just simply can't find any more related to your topic. You've searched EBSCO's Discovery Service, you've searched ProQuest, you've searched Google Scholar, you've looked at bibliographies, you've talked to experts in the field, and you just keep coming across the same articles again and again and again. If you can't find anything more, I think you can kind of assume that of all the literature that is out there right now, you have exhausted the search and found everything on your topic. But what I would recommend, though, is always ask a librarian. A librarian might have another possible venue to search or an idea that you might consider before considering your literature search exhausted. Now, rule of thumb, if you keep coming across the same few texts, and these are what I'm going to call seminal texts, then you can be confident that you've exhausted that particular research stream. Meaning, if all the articles you're finding keep hearkening back to, say, the 3 articles written by Smith, Jones, and Johnson in 1992, 93, and 94, and they all seem to go back to those particular articles. Those are the seminal authors. You definitely want to include them in your dissertation, but that might be the beginning of that particular research stream, and you just simply can't go back beyond that any further because they were the first ones to kind of like spark this avenue of research. Now, interestingly, the literature review is kind of a creative process because in effect you're telling a story. You are the one that's looking at all this existing literature, you're connecting it, you're finding patterns, you're making comparisons, and you are critically showcasing this knowledge in your own words. It's not just a collection of citations. It's a narrative. So it has to be cohesive and it has to be readable. Someone should be able to pick up the beginning of the literature review, read it until the end, and understand kind of where you're going. Interestingly, the literature review is the most popular spot for plagiarism because often what people think is they think, oh, you know, here's a scholar and they already wrote a literature review on this topic. I'm just going to cut and paste these few paragraphs. It's not like I'm stealing anyone's ideas. They're just simply describing what they read. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal because the citations that an author picks for their literature review, how they put themselves together, what they see in the literature that they think is important is their work. So it is actually creative. The literature review is yours as a writer, and you want to make sure that you don't, by accident, plagiarize a literature review piece written by someone else. So stay sharp. There's a couple of different ways you can arrange the literature review. The easiest way is chronological. If you have a research stream that you're following along an existing pattern, you can do something simply chronological. This happened in 2000, this happened in 2005, this happened in 2010, and here we are, and this is happening today. More likely, though, if you're bringing together a number of different ideas and moving forward, you're probably going to do a thematic literature review. So an example I have of this is one student who was talking about bringing therapy dogs into the special education classroom so kids could read to the therapy dogs. There's a whole lot of literature about how therapy dogs decrease stress. There's a whole lot of literature about how stress in the special education classroom is bad and impacts learning. So what this person did is a 2-part literature review looking at those 2 pieces and then bringing it together at the end saying, these 2 research agendas are coming together for my study where I'm combining the stress reduction possibilities of therapy dogs in the very stressful special education classroom to hopefully impact learning. Now you want to bring the literature review full circle of life, like the Lion King. It doesn't just sit at the beginning of your study, right? At the end, in your discussion section, you have to compare and contrast the findings of your work to the work that's previously done. Is it in keeping with what you found before? Does it contradict what you found before? In effect, you have to place your study in the literature to showcase that this is where it fits in the research agenda that you've been working within. So my advice, read a lot. Read other studies as examples. see how they're put together, and see how the different components relate to one another. See how part 1 leads into part 2, leads into part 3. This will help you construct your own review of the literature. It's kind of good to see a couple examples before you start writing your own. I also recommend stay as organized as possible. You can go old school and use note cards, annotated bibliographies, and file folders, or you can go new school, and there's a ton of different software packages out there that are for free